Okay, we're going to get started. It is 10 o'clock. I think most people are now here. So welcome, everybody. It's great to have you joining us this morning for the webinar. We have with us some great guest speakers. My name is Suzanne Andrews. I am the CEO here at the Quinte West Chamber of Commerce. And I'm really delighted to be the facilitator for this morning's webinar to help you maximize your marketing for the holiday season and beyond. A Small Business Week is celebrated in communities across Canada, and I would like to thank everyone who worked together to bring it to the Quinte region this year. None of these events would be possible without the support of our sponsors. And I would like to invite up the two sponsors for this year's event. It is going to be starting with Luc Fournier from the from Trenval Business Development Corporation.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning at this particular webinar. And I hope to see you all again throughout the week as the upcoming webinars show us some great tips and tricks as well as some important information. I want to introduce Trenval this morning, and for those who do not know who Trenval is, we're part of a larger network known as the CFDC, or Community Futures Ontario Network. It's important to recognize this morning the future portion of that network as we all look to the future as part of the critical success of local small business. Trenval has been supporting small business since the doors opened, and we extend to you an invitation to connect with us in hopes that we can help support you and your small business in the future. So in the chat, I've just submitted an email address for Barb Wilson and extend to you, the invitation to reach out to her to see how we can support you going forward. I just also want to take a quick moment to mention one program available to you you can contact us at Trenval for this particular program. It's called Digital Main Street, and it is part of some funding available to you known as future proofing your online marketing. Obviously a very important piece as we move through COVID. So I encourage you again to reach out to us to learn a little more about the Digital Main Street program with some available funding to you. So thanks again. Enjoy today's webinar. Have a great day.
Thanks, Luke. And now I'd like to invite Brian Grattan, who is the Economic Development Coordinator for the City of Quinte West, and he's representing the City of Quinte West today. Brian?
Thanks, Suzanne, and good morning, everyone. And certainly pleased to be here this morning. And on behalf of the city, we are pleased to partner with Trenval and the Bay of Quinte Chambers of Commerce and sponsor this morning's Marketing to Maximize the Holiday Season and Beyond presentation. This is certainly a very timely subject, and we hope you enjoy the presentation this morning, and hopefully you'll have the opportunity to participate in many of the other exciting events that are planned for the 2020 Quinte Business Week. And thank you, and enjoy the week.
Thank you, Brian. It's great. What I'd like to thank the sponsors. As you all know, these events just don't happen without the support of our local economic development agencies. The global pandemic has forced many businesses to look at different ways of doing things. And for many, this involves their strategies around marketing. I'm really pleased to have a couple of guests with us today to help you plan and develop your own marketing plans to make sure you can really connect with customers this holiday season and capture as much of this busy season as you can. As we go through this morning's presentation, please write any questions you may have in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen so they can be asked at the bottom of the presentations. Welcoming Darren Matassa to do his presentation.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Suzanne, and along with the sponsors. Really appreciate being asked to do this, primarily because it's one of those realities that I deal with virtually every day, as the rest of my team does as well. I mean, we have many clients many prospect clients, many business associates that basically ask us a myriad of questions throughout the year, not just during this pandemic time. All about how to grow their business. And you've probably heard me say, once you know, we'll definitely grow. But the focus of today's seminar, for the most part, is trying to meld together some of the best practices, right? In so far as what businesses, through conversations we've had with many types, what's the best thing to do? There's a lot of confusion about digital, Facebook, radio, you know, and then even the upper end of that digital strategic marketing, which is SEO and all of the other tools that are available to you. That being said, it's confusing, right? So, I mean, from a standpoint of what's the best thing to do, all advertising is good advertising, all right? But it's how you do it and what you say. There are many ways to say something. The biggest thing that we offer, really, any radio broadcaster, by the way, I'm speaking in very broad general terms about radio broadcasting. That includes ourselves at Starboard Communications, depending on where you're watching this, maybe another market, includes Complete Broadcasting as well. We all operate on the same premise, which is we have audience. Our audience is really comprised of your customers, really. They're all varying sizes and different demographic breakdowns and things like that. But from a real simple sort of standpoint, you know, going into, Brandy and I were just talking just prior to this broadcast about this key critical time, September through December and perhaps even beyond, that typically from a retail standpoint are an extremely important time of year for all retailers. A lot of, you know, that discretionary buying, the gift buying, potentially products and or services as well. This year, going into the seasonal Christmas season or holiday season, we've never had to deal with this before, right? We know it's an important time from a revenue standpoint from all the local businesses, and it's been an up and down sort of roller coaster ride since the beginning of the pandemic. What's interesting, I suppose, to note is that radio has remained probably higher usage-wise during the pandemic time, because it was a major source of information, what's going on, who's open, who's closed, and that type of thing. So as a result, I mean, it was certainly well adopted, even more so. And still is, for that matter. Successful marketing really is communicating effectively with your customers, your prospect customers, before they walk in your door, right? And this applies to not only radio, right? It also applies to digital. Now, for the sake of this webinar, I'm going to stay away from SEO and all of the other sort of like invest in platforms that need to be financially invested in to make sure that they're operating properly from a digital marketing standpoint. But please don't get me wrong, I fully support the digital marketing process. This is more about how you, as a retailer, right, simply, you have your website, right? You certainly, hopefully, will have an open door. You got a storefront. Maybe you've got e-commerce on your website. These are the three major contact points, okay? But how you communicate with people to say, listen, you want to cut through the noise, right? And you want to say, this is what I do. This is what I have. This is why it's important for you as a potential customer of mine, let's say. Tell them something relevant, right? Because telling them something relevant is creating an emotional attachment to your product and service, right? So that when they do need something, they're going to think of you first. So it's really, really important to when you communicate communicate with them. Do it in such a way that is memorable, right? That's where the power of radio comes in. Also, the power of radio has the chance to do this. You've got your website, and you basically, let's move on to the next slide, Suzanne. You've got your website, and you've got your bricks and mortar building, right? So really what that is you have 2 points of contact. They're both extremely important, because one is someone can walk in, right? Or, as is the habit perhaps in a more COVID-esque environment, people will go to your website, okay? And that website it's the cornerstone for what people can, because remember, like it's one thing they can hear radio marketing and say, go to this website to find out about an offer or a special event that's going on, something along that line. But your digital storefront, your website, right? That's the thing where they're going to start with, right? From making an actionable thing in terms of, okay, I want to look at ABC business because I heard that, right? A product or service that I may or may not be interested in, or hopefully may, has a special on, or they've got a marketing program on, or they've got a special line, they're having a trunk show, whatever the case may be, right? They're going to go to your website, right? And just to give you an idea of how important we as radio people look at your website, when we do we call it a client needs assessment, right? So, meaning that we need to do our homework first in terms of your product, your service, your competition level, what are the problems, what are the cons. I mean, we develop a campaign to address not only the right people you need to talk to, but what are the other issues. One of the first things we do is we go to your website. And we do that because we want to see what is that first visual contact point, right? Now, I've been doing this a long time. A lot of websites or businesses' websites, they've had, hit and miss success. They don't use it very much. But I'm here to tell you, right? Insofar as the environment that we're dealing with right now, your website needs to be not over the top expensive or got all the bells and whistles on it, but it needs to basically be an integral part of your marketing message, right? Because we can tell people to look you up, and if they go online to look you up, that's a win, right? So then it becomes more an issue of what do you have on your website? If they hear a radio commercial that is engaging, it's relevant, maybe it's funny, but it's targeting your business, and please go to www blah 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 blah, right? Because of this, everything's got to be relevant. So and God bless a lot of businesses. They jumped on the I need a website bandwagon long time ago. But it's also something that can hurt them as well. Or maybe they're doing the Facebook thing and they're saying, well, I'm using social media to market now. And I'll get to that point, but which I might do now when Suzanne goes, yeah, I'm going to change that slide. There's a big difference between social media marketing and Facebook, right? Facebook, we all know what it was designed to do, right? Anytime you want to change that slide, Suzanne, it'd be great. And they're all super important, but what gets confusing, frankly, to a lot of business owners that we've talked to is that they understand the need for a website. They understand the need to mass market themselves, right? And I'll come to that shortly. So the Facebook thing, that works. It's inexpensive. You can set it up. That's great. But in order to make it work for you, it becomes a little bit more difficult. The skill set's involved here, right? As the slide says, there's a huge difference between strategically creating, a social media campaign and your Facebook page and your website. Your website is basically a visual representation of your store. and messaging and how to contact you and that type of thing. But here's an interesting thing from, his name is Landry, who is a well-written analyst and researcher for the Huffington Post. I just copied a couple of interesting points about social media campaign marketing, meaning that it's not your Facebook page, okay, and it's not your website. Should every business be using a social media campaign? It's a financial investment, number one, right? And for it to really work properly, it needs to be utilized every day. Again, I am going to reiterate for all of the people that are heavily involved in social media marketing, love it to death. But this is more about local businesses not having perhaps the latitude, right, or the experience to be able to build a fully integrated social media campaign, right? Using social media in a lazy or clumsy way can backfire on you, and that's totally true. You could lose customers, or there's negative reviews because you're not using it properly. Apparently, and as I've been told too, and I've learned this, is that there's certain rules and regulations that aren't really rules, they're suggestions and strong ones about how to properly do this without upsetting people, right? And also, Landry says, deciding on whether social media marketing is right for your business depends entirely if it fits your business model. Every single business, especially now, right, has had to pivot, change, do different things in order to facilitate a more seamless experience with buying a product and service, right? Some of those changes or your existing way of doing business that existed pre-COVID, they probably don't look the same anymore, right? So in many cases, the business model for moving into a social media campaign for your business might not be realistic at this point in time, right? Make no doubt, it can be very successful, but from a local, smaller business, local business, let's look at the things that you perhaps do have without investing more money into something that perhaps may or may not bring you the return that you want from a social media standpoint. There are a lot of businesses that do spend almost exclusively on digital, but they are the bigger boys, as it were, and there's thousands of dollars a month in terms of SEO and so on and so forth. Not necessarily would that same model apply to a local business, right? Mind you, if in fact you are a business, a local business, then you do have e-commerce, meaning that people can go to your website, view your goods and services, and buy, basically, right, online. That's great, because probably in that particular case, you may have, or you're investing in a social media manager. You've allocated a budget that you can use daily, weekly, or monthly in terms of boosting posts and so on and so forth. You also have to, allocate time to manage your content and messages and responding for things. It's a lot of work from a social media standpoint, right? That's why a lot of businesses, if they can do it themselves and if they have an e-commerce site, I mean, they're probably a little bit ahead of the game, right? And which is great if you're a local business and you set yourself up that way. But what we're really talking about here, right, is how to simply create traffic for your online storefront and your actual walk-in in the door, right, clientele, highlighting your product services, identifying your ideal customers, and also how to create a relevant reason to visit your website before your competitor. And that's pretty simple, right? What we need to do is get to your potential client. It could be a current client, it could be a prospect client that has never graced your doors or been to your website before, but you need to contact them. You want to message them, impression them, as to put yourself in front of them as a product or service provider. Is a lot of business owners, they say, well, I'm using Facebook. Good, right? The problem is, quite frankly, the official thing is, let's say you got 1,000 likes on your Facebook page, right? and you post something to your Facebook page. Hey, we're having a special or sale, or I've got this new product line in, right? At very, very best, you're only going to get 10% of the people that have liked your Facebook page. That is a function of Facebook changing all their algorithms several years ago to disallow basically your ability to contact all of your people that have liked your page. End of story. Which is problematic, right? Because you're hoping this is happening, and maybe it'll change. But out of that 1,000, if you only get, 10% of them that are actually getting your Facebook post, right? Unless you're boosting and spending money on it and things like that. If you want the other 90% of your 1,000, you're gonna have to pay for it. Okay. Again, that involves a different sort of, can you do that? Your skill sets, can you do it? If you can't do it yourself, fine. But it's just one of those things that we hear as a radio station. Well, I'm using Facebook. Are you paying to boost posts? How are you using it basically? And how can I align with that? Because what I've got is massive audiences, and I want to be able to align the two. Anyway, so that's just a little off the top there. So next page. So BDC, quote from them is, the reality today is that you shouldn't focus solely on online marketing or digital marketing. Oh, sorry, online marketing or traditional marketing. And by traditional marketing, I mean print, radio, television. That's more traditional, mass marketing. But rather take an integrated approach. In other words, you might want to use the right tools at the right time to find the right audience. Okay. That is exactly what you should be doing. It was a long article, but that's really the gist of what we're talking about today, right? How can I reach as many potential customers as I possibly can? All right, next slide, Suzanne. A lot of time, and it kind of drives me a bit crazy, I will hear local business owners come in or on the phone, or they've agreed to come in, we're gonna have a chat about their business. And they just say, oh, I wanna just get my name out there in terms of radio, right? Really nothing could be further from the truth. Because what you're really trying to do is grow your business, have something happen, like buy this, come in and check me out, whatever the case may be. It's not about getting your name out there. It's about getting your name out there with relevance as what you do as a product and service provider. I'm just going to see if I can get rid of, hang on, Suzanne. Oh, I want to get rid of that. Oh, that's better. Okay, you still hear me? Everyone good? Okay. By way of example, here's a classic sort of commercial that somebody would tell us to put on air because they want to get their name out there. At the Widgets R Us store, we have widgets, the best widgets, and by far the largest selection of widgets you've ever seen. We've been selling widgets for 45 years in the Belleville market. Our widget salespeople are the friendliest and most experienced. We also have round to it's for whenever you get a round to it and need more widgets. Called 613-222-8111. That's right, 613-222-8111. That is terrible. But that seems to be a very common perception of what a radio commercial should sound like in order to get positive results. In actual fact, that does nothing, right? Radio audiences are real people, and your next potential customers. They will pay attention to commercials, right? But basically, depending on what your product and service is and how often someone rebuys something, right? Your commercial message needs to positively affect or enhance their lifestyle, right? Today, next week, or even next month. As a business owner, you gotta always ask yourself, why should they buy from me? I know what I sell. Let's use the widget store. I know what I sell, but let's say everyone wants a widget. why should they buy from you, right? They're always listening to radio, okay, because they choose to. And this is a very key point, is that we don't tell people to listen to us. They choose to. As a result, they self-tune the medium, right? If they like listening to rock, they'll listen to rock. If they like to the country, they'll listen to country. They choose to. And because they do that, okay, it allows them to be extremely engaged insofar as what they've chosen to be exposed to. All right. So, contrary to some people that have looked me square in the eye and said, "Hey, no one listens to radio anymore," there's too much research, facts that totally disprove that fact. In fact, with the advent of radios on your phone and all of the apps, radio has seen a huge increase in terms of reach. Right there, according to Nielsen, 93% of us listen to AM or FM radio every week, right? Like, and just use yourself. If you're a store owner, what do you do? Some of you may say, well, I listen to satellite or Sirius, and that's fine. But we're not talking about you. We're talking about everybody as a aggregate group or audience, right? A lot of radio advertisers, ever since this pandemic began, from the big ones down to the small ones, right? They're starting to turn around and go back into radio because of its mass marketing ability to talk to a lot of people, right? And that's really how it works. But let's change the slide, Suzanne. Okay. So moving forward, I mean, November, it has become a very, very key or linchpin or keystone month in the seasonal activity or retail activity that tends to happen pre-Christmas, let's say, right? A lot of research, because of the pandemic and COVID, it has focused on what's likely to happen, right? Because it's not the same as it was, right? So what's going to change? Well, a lot of people are going to be starting their Christmas seasonal shopping even before Black Friday, right? Because they're looking to source out seasonal purchases, and Black Friday is no doubt a big event, especially as we all know. It started as an online event, really started in the States and it caught on here. But the point being that there are key days that are certainly more important than others. But as we go through, but November is basically one of the months that's much of any local operators' revenue sources come from. Not so much December anymore. Used to be years ago. Not so much, right? Now, speaking of trying to talk to audiences, and I always say audiences, not listening to the radio station, because we spend a lot of time, effort, and money trying to grow our audiences and our loyalties so that business owners can talk to the right people at the right time. And one thing I'm just going to touch on here is what's called reach. All right. Reach is, let's say, and this is where radio just kicks it out of the park, right? You want to talk to a lot of people about your business, right? Or you want to talk to people a lot about your business, rather, sorry. Or you would rather talking to a lot of people. There's a big difference there, and it's called reach, meaning how many people are you reaching, right? You need to reach before you can start randomly searching for a product or service that they're looking for. Remember, like I just said, radio is an organically consumed item or tool or platform or source of entertainment or news. So if they're already engaged in there, what you really want to do is talk to as many of them as possible. That's where the reach comes in. There's a difference between digital and traditional or mass media. Mass media talks to a lot of people, entire audiences, or doubles the audiences up, and they're full of people, right? Digital is a little bit more narrow and focused, right? So when you're trying to talk to this people, this age group, gender, the whole 9 yards, which is extremely targeted, and it's great. But reach is all about how many of the right people can I talk to, all right? So the frequency and reach in radio, you'd be surprised. I mean, I could turn this stuff on and all of a sudden I'm talking to thousands of people in one minute segment of time. Okay, let's move on, Suzanne. Okay, we often get asked, well, how many people are we talking about here, right? Well, I mean, everyone hears commercials. You can't turn off your ears. What's in the commercial is what makes people remember. But I'm going to give you just a quick walkthrough of what we do, right, for a business ABC, and I'm only going to use 95.5 Hits FM in terms of what we look at to make sure that we're talking to enough of the right people before we suggest a campaign to even begin. Because our big thing is it needs to work, right? So what you're looking at here is, let's assume, and I'm just pulling random bits of information out. So let's assume that you want to talk to as many adults, 18 to 64, as possible. It's a little broad as a demographic group for a host of reasons, but I just use it in this example. And you're broadcasting 22 messages a week on 95.5 Hits FM. And we're going to run it Monday through Sunday across all day parts, all right? Looking at this is extremely important. This is also what, by the way, a national agency for McDonald's, Chrysler Canada, Harvey's. This is what they look at first, because they want to see how efficient or how many of the right people are listening to 95.5 Hits FM. Okay, and they base their whole campaign around it. This is information we share with all of our clients, right? Because we need to know that we're doing a good job, right? So in this particular instance, 22 commercials on 95.5 Hits FM, right? Over a 7-day period, and it's all average, right? So by comparison's sake, your commercial on average will talk to 16,720 adults between the ages of 18 to 64. If I don't average and I just add it all up by day parts, it's 50,000 people of adults 18 to 64. Every single time you broadcast a commercial, right, you're getting 3,567 adults between the ages of 18 to 64. That's just one. Imagine if you're doing 22. So in terms of reach, or how many impressions am I making with the adults 18 to 64 over the course of 7 days? You have impressioned or reached or contacted, communicated to 78,500 people between the ages of 18 to 64. That's mass media, okay? And that's how radio works. Now, next part of your planning. You certainly need to, as we started at the beginning of this, it's all about how to drive traffic, both to your online, your website, your online storefront, okay? So after you've worked out perhaps or explored, because this conversation in terms of us doing all our homework is totally free to you, right? We have to do it to make sure we're serving you best, right? So let's say we've crafted a commercial pre-COVID going into the Christmas season. Includes a unique offer, a position, and clear instructions to visit your website for more detailed information. Okay, we've all agreed on the length, the timing, the strength of the campaign, okay? But we won't start the campaign yet because the digital component now needs to be added before the radio schedule starts. And that is critical. And I can't tell you how many times we're in that, yes, the business ABC, oh yeah, well, yeah, we'll get to that. Well, when can the radio ads start? And we go, yeah, but the radio ads are directing our audiences to your website. And your website doesn't have the offer on it, or it doesn't have this, that, or the other thing. It's missing. that leaves a kind of a bad taste in a potential prospect client for your business's mouth, right? Because they went to your website and they didn't get what they wanted, right? So it's about planning, right? So your website should reflect the basics, right? Products, your offers, how to reach you, and how to contact you. That is it. That's all people want. If it's difficult to wander through it, because there's all sorts of information about how long you've been in the business, which is a nice story, but it's not necessarily necessary, right? If you have a website, especially this time of year going into the season, can we update, like seasonal tweaks would be like, you know, like Christmas and things like that. If you do have a website that's e-commerce compatible, that too should be included in the radio creative. Make sure that it's functioning properly and easily, right? And that's another one, right? Basically, they need to start at the same time. Your radio mass marketing to all these thousands of people that your radio campaign is going to deliver, and your website campaign, it needs to be able to start at the same time. And there's a reason other than what I just mentioned. As soon as your radio campaign starts and your digital or your website, right, is set up, you can now start to track through your Google Analytics, right, that exists in everyone's website. And because it exists on the back end, you now have a starting point. So I started marketing this at point A in time, right? And I'm doing radio and I'm doing my website, and tied to it, of course, is Facebook. You can actually have analytics that show exactly how it works or how it is working. And that's what they do, right? So again, just getting back to Facebook for a second, because this too, we've noticed tends to be something that they fall down on. Could be because they just don't know how, or they don't have the time, and I totally appreciate that. But if you've got an offer that's specific to seasonal, Christmas, it's something new that you're trying, change the top image on your Facebook page to kind of reflect the seasonality of it. Refresh it. There's nothing worse than going to a Facebook page, let's say, and you can clearly tell that it has not been managed or updated in a very long time. So let's say you've got a tremendous offer that is being pushed out through radio, and it's relevant, it's on time, it's perfect for this pre-Christmas. That ad is pinned to the top of your Facebook page, okay? Because from there, it can either go back to your website, and in many cases, they've said to us, well, we don't have that person to do it. Let us know. We have the people to do that, okay? And don't forget, again, if budget allows, plan to invest in boosting your posts, right? See, and that's key as well. Another really interesting way about maximizing your reach or your frequency, okay, there are websites that are proprietary, meaning that they have so much traffic on them, right? That is natural or organic based on what they are. I know Quinny Broadcasting has a version of this as well. In Quinny.ca, it's the same sort of beast, but they both have traffic, right? What you want to be able to do is park your marketing and a link to either your website or your Facebook page in amongst the, basically, like, if we're talking about in Quinny, we do about 1.4 million page views a month. And what that enables you to do is, because they're hearing it, they're perhaps seeing it on your Facebook, and now there it is again. They click on it because they need more information. It takes you right back to your Facebook page. And that's a lot of people, a lot of people. So, end of the day, the wrap up is traditional tied with your website, driving traffic at your website now more than anything as a local business owner is super, super important. And I will say this, is that especially when it comes to radio, a lot of people seem to think that it's so expensive, okay? It's not. We have been very, very careful with trying to help local businesses afford to put these two elements together, right? And we've been doing it for quite a while now, 7, 8, 9 months. And when you put the two together, it works really well. But you're going to need help from us, okay, in terms of everything. And I think that's probably the cue that my time is up. Yes?
Yeah, I just thought people might want to see you up front and big instead of being off in the corner while your slideshow is going. And I want to thank you, Darren, because you certainly have helped a lot of us understand how the different elements of marketing can work together. And it's important that every business understand that not everything is going to work the same for everybody. If any of us knew what that magic formula was, we'd be very rich people indeed, because I think marketing is a lot of trial and error. And people have to be willing to try different things, and they have to be able to look at what they've done in the past and see if it got them the results they want. And I've often heard that people put all this time, energy, and dollars into marketing, but they don't always take the time to look at the results of that marketing and decide if it was something that they should do again. So I think that would be something that I would advise people to do, is definitely take a look at the results and make sure that you find a way to try and measure the success of some of the things that you've tried.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good. And please stay on the line, because we have got a Q&A at the bottom there, and people are definitely encouraged to put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat, and that way we can get to them at the end of the presentation. I'm now going to call on Brandy Brown. She is the owner of Off the Hook, and she's going to share with you her approach to marketing and how she has developed a customer culture and what it means for her business. I know that many of you know Brandy. You have been involved with her through her various events that she's done, and her marketing events and her fantastic campaigns. But I'm going to give you a quick introduction for those of you on the webinar this morning that perhaps don't know Brandy. Brandy Calvert Ringelman has been conquering retail, and I apologize for calling you Brandy Brown. That's how I first got to know you, and I always think of you that, but that is not your name, and my deepest apologies on that, Brandy. It is Brandy Calvert Ringelman. She's been conquering retail for the past decade, bringing high demand fashions to Quinty. Her Bachelor of Arts degree, concentrating on business and economics, plus her degree in adult education, each gave her a theoretical background for being in business and self-employment. But more importantly, her long history of big box retail management and her love of fashion perfectly married her vision and concept for Off the Hook Boutique and Gallery. With humble beginnings, Brandy launched Off the Hook using trunk shows and events to sell her wares. Demand and popularity quickly determined her need for retail space. Off the Hook's current location is their fourth move to a larger space and is now at 2,000 square foot of showroom bliss. This last expansion has added an art gallery and intimate event space that allows the artistic side of Brandy to showcase not just art from other sources, but some of her own masterpieces as well. Brandy is truly an example of taking your passions and making it your business. So please join me in welcoming Brandy.
Hi, everybody. So Suzanne asked me to touch on a couple different things today, one of which was what our advertising and marketing plans might be for this coming holiday season. And some of it is going to be very traditional in the sense of things and tools that we've used in the past, but we are making a couple of changes for this season because of COVID. My advertising dollars are limited. I'm not McCurdy's or Leon's. So for me, I tend to really focus where I spend my advertising dollars with tracking. So we do advertise on multiple different avenues and platforms, but how I spend that money and when I spend that money, just like what Darren had to say, which is the right tools at the right time with the right audience, works for my business. Now, it might be very different for somebody else's retail business, or if you don't do retail at all, then that's going to be different and look different depending on your business. So tracking definitely makes a big difference. And like what Darren said, through digital advertising and through your social media and through your website, you're able to digitally track it. But then there's other ways of tracking that are also important. You know, when I do have a new customer come into the store and they say they've never been in before, I'm always asking, what brought you in today? So in some cases, it's because they, you know, they might have heard a radio ad, which is a little bit trickier to track, or they might have come in word of mouth, or they might have seen something in print. Anyway, tracking is important. So for our holiday season campaign, the first thing that we do is we do print, and it all happens at the same time, like Darren said. If that's the campaign, then it needs to be executed on all platforms at the same time. So, or I should say, the platforms that you're choosing to use need to be executed with the same timing. So with print and the corresponding digital component, we are going to be focusing with Black Friday as well as Boxing Week. And we tend to take, this is our business, we tend to take our advertising dollars for the year that we allocate to print and digital with the Trentonian and the Intelligencer and the community press. And we tend to take that entire budget and spread it over those two campaigns, the Black Friday and the Boxing Week. Sometimes we participate in the Shop Local campaigns as well, because we have had some good success with that, but we want to spend our dollars for larger ads with a bigger impact. With radio, we continue with our regular advertising campaign to build our brand awareness and stay relevant with our listeners. And we do that through our fashion files and our regular ads. But with Black Friday approaching and Boxing Week approaching, we do call to action campaigns as well to get that foot traffic to think about the promotions that are on for that particular time frame, and get them in the door. We try to use as many stations as possible during those campaigns. So you will hear our ads when we have our Black Friday promotion and our Boxing Week on both 95.5 Cool 100 with Starboard, as well as with Quinny Broadcasting at Mix. And lately we've also been participating with the the oldies, I say My FM, but the oldies station in Napanee and Belleville. With social media and Instagram, we've always been very heavily involved with those platforms. We will continue for this holiday season to continue our blended content. So what that means is we will still be doing regular daily posts that include artistic content, lifestyle content, live videos, and maybe funny shares that we found off of the internet that might be not actually relevant to our business. We find that that keeps our audience interested. And as Darren mentioned, you know, with Facebook, for example, your reach might only be 10% at the highest levels of your followers. And I find that I am able to achieve that number, that 10%, if I take the same post and share it over and over and over again. Otherwise, it tends to be around 2 to 3% reach. But with the Facebook Live videos, because that is a feature that Facebook wants you to use, and to encourage you to use that, you will get a much higher reach with the Facebook Live. And with the social media, with our non-boosted, non-sponsored ads, those are, they're free outside of the time it takes to create that content. So we tend to use that like crazy. It might even get annoying for some people. But then we will also, outside of our regular blended content, we will be doing our holiday shopping content. So with posters and advertising our sales events and maybe advertising some products. we still do live videos with that content as well. So even though, yes, we've got a Black Friday poster, and we're doing the radio, and we're doing the print, and we're doing the digital, and we're doing all of those things, we will throw in a Facebook Live video about the different sales items and promotions that we're offering in the store. And then, of course, we do our sponsored ads. So we do find that the sponsored ads for us, and the way that we've set up our our demographics and the geographical areas, do bring us new customers from outside Bay of Quinte. Even when we're kind of targeting Bay of Quinte as our geographical area, we've really kind of beefed up what we've been spending on sponsored ads with social media. And I'm starting to pull customers that have never been into our store before from Warkworth, Coburg, Port Hope, Kingston, Oshawa, Peterborough, which is great. That wasn't sort of the intent of what we were targeting with the sponsored ads, but I'm happy to have it. So I think I will probably continue with the way I've got that set up. But if those sponsored ads aren't pulling the way you want them to pull, then you probably need to go back in and readjust your settings for your target demographic. We also our plan is also to continue with our e-blasts and mobile subscribers. So and this is, sorry, Darren, but this is probably my favorite platform to advertise and market. And the reason why is that the cost per reach is so low. I do radio, you know that, but this one happens to be one of my favorites just based on the cost. So we will be sending Boxing Week and Black Friday e-blasts out to our subscribers, as well as just a regular season's greeting e-blast as well, and mobile text messages. So we've worked really hard over 10 years to build those subscriber lists. So with the e-blasts, we have 4,000 email subscribers. And our open rate depends on the campaign, but it's somewhere between 22 and 25%, which is a little bit higher than the average. I'm happy to have that. And then with our mobile subscribers, we have 1,800 mobile subscribers. So if we send out a text message and 1,800 people get it, I believe the open rate on those is somewhere close to 95%. Now with that, the costs are quite low based on the reach that you get and the results that you get. But the drawback is that it takes a while to build that subscriber list. So it's not something that you can just say, I'm gonna pay for this now and get that result like you would with radio or print or something else. It's something that is sort of a long-term plan that you need to work towards. But I did find that during COVID shutdown that this tool was a fantastic way for us to reach our already existing clientele. So I can't say enough about, if you're not already building those subscriber lists, that you should be doing that as a long-term plan. The easiest way that we have two ways that we build that subscriber list. And it works really well for retail. How that would work with other businesses, it would probably work the same with a service business as well. We have a draw at the cash when people are cashing out. And of course, the ballot for the draw has that opt-in anti-spam clause, but we take their email information and their cell phone information on that ballot, and it states right on the ballot that our intentions are to use that, but that we will not obviously be selling that information to anyone. And that's how we've been able to build our subscriber lists to the size that they are. More recently on our website, we've added those call to action buttons on the website. So if someone is visiting our website, they can sign up for our e-blasts and our mobile targeting right through the website. So the fifth thing that we are doing for our holiday season with advertising and marketing is collaboration. So this is something new that we, I mean, we did a little bit of it before, but we're really doing a huge project for it this holiday season because of COVID. So myself and 6 other retailers have rented the Grand Banquet Hall, used to be the former Greek Hall in Belleville. And we're having a warehouse sale on November 7th and 8th. And this is great because it's offering shoppers the most bang for their buck in terms of their time and COVID safety. They're able to access 7 businesses in one visit. And for us retailers, it offers us exposure to potentially new clientele. So that means as Off the Hook, I might be able to tap into Studio B and Vivacious and the clientele that they have that maybe doesn't know, 1, who we are, hasn't been in, or 2, might not see that product had we not had the collaborative event. We're bringing in an element of nonprofit. I want to comment on that a little bit because they're particularly hurting with this whole COVID situation. They've lost out on a lot of fundraising events and opportunities. And I just feel like as it's our responsibility to kind of shop local and help each other kind of get through this weird time, it's also our responsibility to keep them as part of our activities, even though it doesn't necessarily, it's not benefiting our bottom line in any way. This whole concept of working together, in my opinion, particularly in this way with this event at the Grand Ballroom, I think takes takes the shopping local pie and makes it bigger without necessarily watering it down. And so that was the end goal. And I mean, as a team, the 7 of us are working beautifully together, and we're all communicating, we're having meetings, we've got group chats happening, and we're all being very diligent and careful that we're not stepping on each other's toes. We're trying to make sure that we have the best product mix at the event and that we're not duplicating each other's selection. So that brings me to the 6th thing that we consider for our campaign for the holiday season, which is our product mix. So something we've always done that works really well that I continue to do is I do bring in seasonal loss leaders. So loss leader means that it's got lower profit dollars, lower price, but it does provide less expensive gifting options for consumers, and then getting them in the door, then they buy other things that you actually are making money on. And these items, because they're cheerfully priced and they have lower price tags, are typically easier to clear after the holidays once the campaign is over. Then we also bring in our core product, door crashers. So once again, it's cheerfully priced with less margin than the usual, but they're items that they already love that they might need in another color or they want to buy for someone else. And although you're not making much in terms of profit dollars on those items, what's great about those is that the investment that you made to have to beef up your inventory for that seasonal event, once that is over, any inventory that you have left can go back up to regular price and wasn't a huge burden to your purchasing dollars. So a nice mix of that in terms of advertising and promotions, and then you just we put the regular stock on sale, tends to work really well for us. So both in the radio, both in the print, and as well as in the digital and on the social media, you will have the regular, hey, we're having a Black Friday and Boxing Week event, but we do tend to target just for that campaign period those specific items in the advertising. And then the 7th thing that we are doing, which is, I mean, we did it before, but we're really going to go hardcore with it this year because of COVID, is that we're looking for shopping local signage. So yes, we've got the sticker on the front door, but I'm planning on checking with Willow Publishing and JP Print or KKP to see what they might have available that can be put everywhere throughout the store, each merchandising opportunity to have a thank you for shopping local signage. And then of course at the cash desk, make sure that the staff are thanking the customer for coming in that day and thanking them to shop local. What I think this does is I think that that plants the seed for their next purchase. So even if their next purchase isn't going to necessarily be it off the hook because they were just there, that plants the seed that maybe they need to be going to Wanamaker's, or maybe they need to be getting a gift certificate from Tomaso's or the Boathouse. And I think it's just part of retraining the consumer's brain that that's what's important. We have seen a big push from consumers to stay focused on shopping local. They're even being very vocal about it. So I think that if we can kind of continue to focus on that from the retail side, that's going to keep them focused on shopping local. Now, the other thing that Suzanne asked me to kind of touch on today was, you know, our customer culture that we've worked so hard to create. You know, every business has a business culture, you know, how you want your employees to behave and respond within the work environment, you know, maybe how you want them to dress, the environment that you want to present to consumers with your business, but there's also customer culture. So with customer culture, that's just the flip, you know, how you want your customers to feel and respond within your business. So for us, right from the beginning, because we started with sort of trunk shows and me selling out of the back of my van, we've always had a social element and an element of retail therapy with what we've done. So some of those tools include private parties, ladies' nights, VIP nights for our elite clientele, which often include free gifts and food and a little wine. And then we do wine tours and bus tours and theater nights. We've done spa nights, psychic nights, high tea afternoons. And then every year we always have our Love Your Body campaign, which is on right now, trying to condition our customers to not be so hard on themselves and not fall into unrealistic body expectations presented to us by the media, Hollywood, and the fashion industry. We do fashion shows, fundraisers, online auctions, but some of the less obvious customer culture that we've been able to create is sort of the experience within the store. And, you know, we've dried a lot of tears at the change room when someone's maybe lost a breast due to cancer, lost a husband, or they're celebrating a wedding, or in Suzanne's case, you know, new babies and
babies.
That's, yeah, sorry. And lots of times there's laughing and joking at the change room and within the store just to bring someone back up from the worst day that they ever had. And of course, we work really hard with our customers to prevent them from beating themselves up in front of the mirror at what they see. So all of that, both the events and both the social side of it that happen either in the store, outside of the store, related to the store, have worked towards creating that customer culture. And I do definitely think that that makes us a little bit unique. I know that, you know, Angela over at Vivacious, she has some of those things happening as well. And she has some of those moments at the change room because her and I work very well together. And it's a great friendship that I've come to really appreciate. And but I don't know, I think that that's something that we've really worked at from the very beginning, was the social side of what we do. And that is going to set us apart from the big box stores, which I think more and more because of COVID are realizing that maybe they want to only sell online and are starting to close their brick and mortar stores or pull back out of there a little bit. And that's what's going to make that divide that's always sort of been there between big box and little independents, and even bigger divide. And I think it's to our advantage. So going forward, outside of the holiday season, with COVID, on the horizon for who knows how long, our plan for 2021 is that we need to figure out as a store what that customer culture looks like with events and COVID, and how we navigate, pivot, reevaluate, assess, and readjust to make that work. So that's what, if you've got any ideas, please shoot them to me. And that's it. That's all I wanted to, Suzanne asked me to discuss our plan for the holiday season and kind of the customer culture that we've grown over the years. And that's what I have for you. So any questions, let me know.
That was great. Thank you, Brandy. I knew, I see all the exciting things that you do, and I wanted to really thank for you for sharing, what your plans are for the season. And I'm sure that many of the people on the webinar this morning have been inspired to take a look at their own marketing strategies to try and maximize their own sales over the next 6 months, to get them through the holiday season, which I think many people are really counting on the sales from that. And then, of course, those generally quieter months that follow afterwards, like that January, February, March, which I know for many businesses can tend to be quite a bit slower. We do have a couple of questions. So I know we're a little bit over time, but this is such a great topic. So I'm going to try and get these in quickly. First of all, the first question is, Darren and Brandy, you as well, what are your thoughts on shopping apps, as you didn't really make reference to the massive growth in branded shopping apps? What's your thoughts on those?
I'm going to let Brandy defer to that first, because she's more probably in tune with it than I am.
Okay, there you go. To be honest with you, the shopping apps, I haven't really done a whole lot with them. I do have a meeting on Thursday with a new company that's, I think they've got like a franchise situation happening, and someone that's covering Port Hope to Napanee and has this kind of territory is coming in on Thursday to discuss that with me. I tend to hold back and hesitate a little bit. I know that might not be what everyone wants to necessarily hear, because if it doesn't end up being a big app, then or it falls flat on its face, or there's a better, bigger one that shows up a little bit after that, that's money that's lost. It's not money that you can get back. That's just my personal opinion. I hesitate. Once it's big, then maybe, yes, I might participate.
So not necessarily get in at the ground level and be just one of a few stores that are on there, right? Because
yes, yeah.
Darren, anything further you'd like to add to that?
No, I think that I think that sound insofar as there's so many digital inventions, let's even say, like not new, but simply manifestations of a great idea, apps for some, and so on. There's so much out there. I think you really got to be very careful as to which ones you attach your cart to, for a host of reasons, right? Because one thing you don't want to have happen is a negative perception about a given app, and you're on it, could be also a negative perception about your business.
Yeah, for sure.
So you got to be very careful with things.
So the second question is, without sharing dollars, what percentage of sales revenues should you allocate for marketing, advertising, promotion, Facebook, etc.? Is it 5%, 10% of total sales, or should it be more than that?
Well, I mean, it's very, very specific to the nature of your business. Depending on quite honestly, we get into asking questions, or some deep questions that sometimes people don't want to answer, which is profit margins, right? We want to get into, so if you sell one of these, what do you make, right? Because we're trying to find a nice, perfect balance between return on investment for the advertising, right? And with some categories of business, that's harder than others because the margins aren't as great. But insofar as, I've been asked that very question more and more from a radio standpoint, but generally, if you look at total revenue for a year, somewhere between 5 to 10%, right, should be reinvested into still growing your brand, growing your customer base, something like. But again, it's very specific. It's hard to put one percentage against that category of business or that one, because in many cases, what makes sense for one category of business isn't so much making sense for the other, because of margins and because of operational costs and so on and so forth. And that's one thing that's the depth that we kind of walk into voluntarily to figure out what makes sense from a financial investment standpoint for client ABC to have a sustained campaign. And we're very cognizant of that, right? Managing expectations in terms of what's reasonable to expect. And we look at that because it's really, really important.
Brandy, any thoughts on that for yourself?
Like Darren mentioned, you know, it's different based on your business. So for me, my advertising budget has grown over the years as my sales grew. And I know that, you know, you can argue the other side of that, which is if you spend more money on advertising, then you're going to get more sales. It's sort of which came first. But at the end of the day, my fixed costs have to be covered and my wages have to be covered, and those things have to be covered regardless of where my sales are at. So I have kind of increased it and tweaked it over the years, and know my ratio isn't going to be the same as any other business. I feel like that's something that if someone was in a similar business to my own could come in and we could have that conversation and we could kind of share things. And but I also think that your market also needs to kind of determine what you're spending on advertising.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you've got a ton of competition, then you might need to spend a little bit more on advertising than if you had less competition.
That is true. And just as a funny, well, it's kind of funny, we hear this sort of statement a lot. I'm so busy, I don't need to advertise, or I'm so slow, I can't advertise, which means that, okay, so whereabouts are you in the middle, right? Because if you're busier, you should be like using some of that income, right, to help move the needle further down the pipe. You don't have to move it very far, as long as it just moves down the pipe a little bit. Because conversely, when it's like, it's really slow, I can't afford to do anything right now, which is the one time you should be doing it, right? But you can't afford to do it. So you use your success from your marketing, be it because of the time of year, and take a chunk of that to help, you know, buoy you through months that you will still be open and doing business, but yeah, you might need a little financial help, right? So it's kind of one of these, right? And like Brandy said, is every single business is different.
Yeah, and I think that's what we really wanted people to take away from this morning, is that there's a lot of different options out there. There's no one approach that works, but you do have to take the time to sit down, think about your audience, think about your messaging. Like Brandy pointed out, think about what it is you're trying to promote and what it is that you're trying to do. Make sure that everything is working for you. Your website, your social media, everything is connected and working to that one end goal. And I think, you know, if people can take the time to sit and do that, and then afterwards have a look at the results of it and measure it and see what happens. You know, if they want to repeat it again. I think that's what we really want people to take away this morning, is you do have to take some time to plan and really think about what it is that you're doing. I would like to thank Darren and Brandy one last time for sharing with us all their thoughts and ideas about marketing to maximize the holiday season and beyond. A final thank you to our great sponsors, the City of Quinte West and Trendval Business Development Corporation. This event would not be possible without their support. And I want to thank everybody for attending today, for staying on with us, even though we've got a little overtime. Please make sure to check out the rest of the great Quinte Business Week activities taking place. And make sure you join us for the live stream of the Quinte Business Achievement Awards on Friday. I'm going to just pop one last screen up here for everybody. just to make sure that you've got all of the information that you need. Please go ahead and join us for all of the great events coming up. And thank you once again. And we'll see you at one of our next events.